Hello, this video is going to function as my spoiler review. If you'd like to hear my thoughts without diving into spoilers, go to this video, which will be linked both in the description and at the end of this video, but I suppose then the purpose of not watching this video is completely lost, so go to the link in the description or the card on screen now and check it out. Since spoilers are of course related to the story, this video will be going over the narrative almost exclusively, as an analysis/critique. If that's something you're interested in, a breakdown of certain moments, what they mean, and exploring how Star Wars Jedi Survivor's story explores its themes, you're in the right place. I'd like to begin by saying Star Wars Jedi Survivor is an absolutely great time. Obviously, the gameplay is fun and engaging, and when you get past the prospect of the game being fundamentally broken for many players, there's a gripping, entertaining story to be had too. My other video is titled Star Wars Jedi Survivor is almost a masterpiece. It seems many people completely missed the almost in all caps in the title. It comes close in my mind, but it's not exactly a masterpiece in my opinion. In today's video, I think we'll be able to highlight the story aspect to that thought process. My takeaway from playing through the game twice is a positive one. I enjoyed the plot of this game immensely, and I would even go as far as saying I loved it, and then some. It mirrors Jedi Fallen Order, explores its own themes and expands on the themes of Cal Kestis' journey. It introduces us to new characters and reintroduces us to characters from the first game, and it tells a story that is intense yet doesn't stray close, again, to tampering with the original trilogy of movies as its source material. It's a great narrative. It's hardly without its flaws. Every piece of art can be critiqued from almost any angle. Jedi Survivor is far from an exception to that rule, but it's certainly the most engaged with the game that I have personally been so far in 2023. In today's video, you can expect to witness me praising the qualities of the story that I liked, explaining how they fit and what this means for the character, and also going over certain aspects that I wasn't too fond of necessarily as well. Jedi Survivor has a couple of weak areas that I feel could have been done better, and I will explain how I believe that could have been done as well. And there are also times where I felt conflicted, as there are certainly positives and negatives to take away from particular story beats. Whilst this video will no doubt be mostly positive, there will be times where I feel the need to constructively address something that wasn't as good as it perhaps could have been, so please expect that. I'd also like to reiterate the spoiler warning that I just gave. You can't really talk story without addressing spoilers, so please, if you haven't yet played through the game for yourself, please do so and then watch this video at a later date, as it's not going anywhere, unless you really don't want to. And if you don't care or you have finished the story, then of course you are more than welcome to stay. For everybody else, don't come crying to me if this video spoils the plot for you. You've been adequately warned. There's always going to be someone in my experience, so just so you know what you're in for. With all of that rambling dealt with, we can begin. Please be mindful that critiques aren't necessarily my strong suit, but I thought it was a good idea to do one for this particular game. I don't know what has possessed me to do it, but simply put, something has. Anyway, I hope you enjoy a narrative critique of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Even if it turns out to not be very good.
Everything I'm doing feels pointless. The Empire's only growing stronger. Things, haven't been the same since the team split. The walking away isn't an option for me.
It is delusion to think your actions have had any consequence.
Look into the fire. Left unchecked, it will consume everything in its path, until there is only ash.
Master Tapal would be proud of the Jedi you become.
To begin, let's recap this game's predecessor, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Cal Kestis was a Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66, escaping to the effective landfill site planet Bracca, where he lived as a scrapper for 5 years. Haunted by the death of his master and believing he failed to save him, Cal has spent half a decade in hiding. Events unfold rather quickly, forcing Cal to reveal his Force abilities, leading to the Inquisitorius rocking up. Being rescued by former Jedi Seer Junda and pilot Grease Dritus, he embarks on a mission to restore the Jedi Order, courtesy of finding a holocron hidden by Jedi Eno Cordova, containing documentation on the whereabouts of known Force-sensitive children across the galaxy. However, Cal's journey leads him to reconnect with the Force, come to terms with the death of his master, and make peace with the fact that he was a child at the time, and that all he can do is move forward. Cal comes to learn what it means to be a Jedi, winning over the Night Sister Merrin, who believed the Jedi to be evil thanks to the tricks of a fallen Jedi whom Cal and Merrin dispatched together. And as a result of this personal journey is knighted by Seer Junda, whose Padawan Trilla is the second sister, one of the Inquisitors hunting Cal. The core themes of this game are to accept the past, move on, and overcome fear. This is personified when Darth Vader enters the frame, Fear himself, leaving our heroes to scramble away after retrieving the holocron that had come into possession of the Empire thanks to the now deceased Trilla. Realising the best course of action was to not train a new generation of Jedi, Cal decides to destroy the holocron because the MacGuffin wasn't important. However, the journey was. Jedi Fallen Order's narrative strengths came from its ability to tell such a story without straying into the path of events that might hinder the original trilogy, which was produced decades prior, and direct Cal as a Jedi survivor living during the reign of the Galactic Empire, down a different path that is satisfying and meaningful without disrespecting pre-existing canon. It was a rare gem in my eyes as far as recent Star Wars media goes, because it has themes, the characters represent morals, and it actually makes sense. On top of that, fan service is used as lightly as possible, only being applied if it fits and has a meaningful impact on the story being told. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was loved by many, so of course, with everything said, a sequel was always going to be highly anticipated. Fast forward the best part of 4 years, and now we have Star Wars Jedi Survivor. The story of this game continues the journey of Cal Kestis, set 5 years after the plot of Jedi Fallen Order. Cal, now a seasoned, perhaps hardened Jedi Knight, is ready for a darker and more dramatic escapade. And that brings us to our first chapter of the bulk of it. I've broken this down into 3 parts in the timestamps so that this likely long video can be easily consumed in bite-sized chunks, or at least in half-decent length chunks. I'm not that far ahead yet, all I know is it's gonna be fucking long. They aren't really chapters, let's just call it ease of access. The game begins with us on Coruscant. It's massively different to the outer world of Bracca from the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order. However, the opening shots do a spot of mirroring. Rather than a probe droid flying over a wasteland, we have a troop transport flying over the Jedi Temple. Aboard this transport appear to be some Coruscant security officers and their prisoner, Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. The idea is, whatever Cal is up to here, it's going to definitely be ballsy. It only takes a couple of shots of Cal sitting silently whilst looking at the Jedi Temple from the air to know this man has seen some shit. He's now got a beard, symbolising that he finally hit puberty. From his serious, quiet demeanour, we can see this character is not the same as the Cal Kestis we saw in Jedi Fallen Order. He's now far more experienced and perhaps even wiser, if I dare say it. This shift from the scared Padawan to a bold Jedi Knight is made obvious by his calm behaviour despite his circumstances, not to mention the fact that he's on Coruscant, so no doubt he has bucket loads of confidence now too. Considering this is the very opening of the game, it's clear that he's up to something. And I like this difference between Fallen Order Cal and Jedi Survivor Cal because 5 years is a long time. It gives the story something to retroactively chew on. A lot can happen in that time frame, and I doubt Cal's been sat on his backside twiddling his thumbs, because we were privy to the journey that started this whole thing in Jedi Fallen Order. It's fine for this to remain blank for the time being, though I must address I have not read Jedi Battle Scars, which to my understanding fills the gaps a bit too. Safe to say for now, things in Cal's world are understandably different from where we left off. The game does a great job of addressing the passage of time immediately by giving Cal the beard and then suggesting a lot has happened through the quiet, pronounced differences in how Cal presents himself. It's nothing groundbreaking for a sequel to do, it's quite the contrary in fact. A tried and tested method for implying change noticeably change the character's look and demeanour, and then throw them into a situation that they would never have been in at the very beginning of their journey. Without any spoken dialogue whatsoever, with these methods you can tell that some development has occurred. To move on, Cal is escorted through the city aesthetics of one of Coruscant's many numbered levels by his 5 captors, who talk an awful lot, suggesting there's more going on than meets the eye. These guys are nervous, and it certainly isn't their prisoner whose continued composed language suggests he's only here because that's exactly where he chooses to be. As we mooch through the undercity of Coruscant, we can see how the people here are treated. It gives us a good indication as to the state of the galaxy. In 5 years, not an awful lot has changed for the people living under the thumb of the Empire. The security officers are taking Cal to a senator for some reason, who after allowing his droid to somewhat give Cal the rough treatment, gives us some nice exposition to remind Cal of his master, mocking the Jedi tradition. Cal remains calm before simply implying that he's here out of choice, freeing himself from his restraints courtesy of BD-1, stealing his lightsaber back, and slashing up some cannon fodder stormtroopers. This is clearly all in a day's work for our hero. Cal also confirms that he absolutely does have a plan here, and it's clear that everything up until this point has gone according to it. But no Star Wars story would be complete without a modicum of cock-up.
Not so fast, Senator. Hit it, BD. Now he comes to us. He's coming a little hot. Oh, really hot! Hold on!
There you go, what did I just say? Now Cal has to navigate portions of the underbelly of Coruscant in order to reach the Senator's yacht, allowing us to further refamiliarize ourselves with the Star Wars Jedi controls, and also conveniently fall dead to rights to this stormtrooper, so one of those Coruscant security officers can rock up behind him and shoot him, revealing the classic bait and switch maneuver. It's actually one of Cal's allies, Bode Akuna. This revelation was highly predictable, of course. I believe it's by design, as I don't think the introduction is designed to give us any uncertainties about Cal's immediate circumstances. But now we get to begin openly exploring Cal's dynamic with a new character. Though I will say this story does have a knack for predictable plot points and devices, but in hindsight, if it was completely unpredictable, it would have come across as random. Sometimes you've got to subvert things a bit, but other times you need to allow the story to be somewhat predictable. My point being, predictability is hardly a negative thing when used correctly. You need to have a nice mixture of what can be expected and what isn't expected to craft a thoughtful narrative, and I feel as if the plot of Jedi Survivor has bouts of getting this right and bouts of getting this slightly wrong. But we'll get to those as we come to them. Anyway, Bode Akuna is the newcomer to Cal's new crew. The other 4 are the other characters who escorted Cal earlier, however were yet to be formally introduced as the consumer of the story. Then of course we have BD-1, Cal's constant, his baseline. He's a given. Perhaps surprisingly, Bode is a talkative, seemingly likeable guy, but again, like the over-talking did for the audience beforehand, you get the feeling the same masking technique is being employed here too. Bode is a freelancer working for pay, as he puts it, however his main motivation is his daughter Carter, showing us a hologram so we know that he's telling the truth. I'm sure he'll be a shoo-in nice guy, nothing to worry about, right? We then fight our way through the streets of this dingy level of Coruscant with Bode and Cal's back and forth providing much needed exposition for those unfamiliar with the state of the galaxy. The Empire is effectively donkey fucking the universe. Perhaps in contrast to Jedi Fallen Order's introduction, there is far more explanation of the state of the world here, but it's not to the point of becoming invasive. It's fitting for characters who have just met, despite most talking points already having been mutually understood. Eventually we link up with the rest of the crew, Bravo, Gabs and the twins, whose names escape me, but everybody refers to them as twins and all they say is Gabs is fond of BD1 and likes technology, so good for her I guess. As for Bravo, this is his character. But we're led to believe this crew and Cal, with the exception of Bode, have been together for some time and there's definitely chemistry there. This then hits home as they work together like a well-oiled machine to bring down the Senator's yacht, boarding and storming it together. Using a Jedi mind trick, we convince the Senator to grant us access to the terminal. Prior to this, all we knew was the Senator had sensitive Imperial intel on his yacht, but all that's actually seen on his console is a map of Imperial-occupied worlds. A gripe I have is a really minor one, but what is the secret intel that Saw Gerrera needs here? It's a map of Imperial worlds that anybody with a touch of know-how and enough spare time could charter without committing acts of domestic terrorism, no doubt. But Cal in this moment realises that he and his friends haven't even made a dent in the Empire's galaxy-wide conquest. They are stronger than ever and the Senator asks him why fight when you can't win. Though clearly demoralised, a nice scene ensues where Cal demonstrates one of the qualities he lacked at the dawn of Jedi Fallen Order: hope.
No, Senator. Someday when your children see this, they'll know the Jedi never stopped fighting for them.
How disappointingly naive.
The Senator is absolutely correct. It is a touch naive, but it is touching nonetheless. The Senator also gives us some key insight into the mindset of many who have submitted to the Empire. He didn't wish to join the Empire, however under it, in order to blend, he has become as cruel and arrogant as the next piece of the machine. This is consolidated by the presence of a Force echo that tells us he has an affinity for torturing prisoners aboard his yacht. Whilst he may not be 100% a willing subject of the Empire, or at least once upon a time he wasn't, which he uses to protest his virtue to our heroes, the Empire has corrupted him as it does all things. However, shit hits the fan upon leaving the yacht with the crew's new prisoner. Their getaway is destroyed and the Senator, who featured in the marketing, is immediately dispatched by none other than the Ninth Sister. Of course, she was going to be alive. We didn't actually see her die in Jedi Fallen Order. She was just force-pushed through a tree after being mutilated a little bit. She's back with a mechanical hand now, and she's angry. All she can seem to say is, "Justice!" So she has clearly got a score to settle. It makes sense for a character like the Ninth Sister to return because it functions as a benchmark for Cal's ability level. Cal being able to overpower the Ninth Sister in a fight in Jedi Fallen Order was just the beginning, while she and her Imperial friends kill the twins, and Gabs. Considering how their last confrontation went, it's clear that Cal is going to come out on top. However, before they can have a clean duel, there's a crash landing, so Cal must divert course. And this throws him back out into the city, this time in some darker areas where it would have certainly been very fitting for the Ninth Sister to be lurking. I was equally dreading and hoping that she would face Cal down here. I guess I just liked the cinematic picture of a lightsaber duel in a dark room. But alas, it was not to be. Instead, we get to fight some regular scum, or make them fight themselves. The good news is when we resurface, Bode and Bravo are alive, so they can deal with the other enemies whilst we focus on the Inquisitor. Cal grapples onto the Ninth Sister's transporter and uses the Force on the steering yoke, not dissimilarly to how the Second Sister does at the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order, just to remind you who's at the advantage here. Forcing the vessel to crash land, and it would be too much to hope that killed the Ninth Sister. Instead, she jumps 6 miles into the air, and now we have a little fight on our hands. This is obviously where the Rhinoceros Lady meets her end. Despite the difference in backdrop, the duel is relatively similar to the duel on Kashyyyk in Jedi Fallen Order. Except now, for portions of the fight, the Ninth Sister can predict our moves and evade them. Despite this new ability, she's a little more than an inconvenience to Cal, who manages to gain the upper hand and wound the Ninth Sister, leading to this touching cutscene.
Masana! You were a Jedi Knight. before you betrayed our order. Your name was Asana Tide. It's time to set you free.
In 2 swift maneuvers, Cal decapitates the 9th sister, and I doubt she'll be coming back in the 3rd game with a mechanical head. This confirms Cal's increase in ability as he's able to definitively kill an Inquisitor without any form of aid. This is a feat he does not accomplish in Jedi Fallen Order. Now all that remains is to escape. Oh hello Gonk Droid, how are you? Cal regroups with Bode and Bravo, and together they fight their way down to where the Mantis is parked, is that the correct word? Bode and Bravo board fighters, and Cal and BD hop into the Mantis, and then together they fly up to the surface. This little dogfight cutscene is rather classically Star Wars, and I dig it an awful lot. Bode peels off during the dogfight, and Bravo is blown up, so by the time Cal has escaped Coruscant, his entire crew is dead. Aside from the new guy, who's a bit overly friendly for my taste. I think there could have been an opportunity to expand on the characters that are killed off as quickly as they were introduced, but I think it's fair to say that in the spirit of keeping the plot focused, they weren't especially important. But it will be nice for us to be made aware of just how demoralising that devastating loss is for Cal in this moment. Because in this moment I get why it matters to Cal, but it doesn't really matter to me. But one way or another, these characters needed to be out the way to push Cal back into the arms of his old crew, Grease Dritus, Seer Junda, and Night Sister Merrin. As the projections show us, Cal and his crew grew as close as family. The fact that as far as we're aware these characters are alive at this moment is all the comfort we and Cal really need. And with the ship damaged due to being shot at, that much rewarding family reunion is perhaps much closer than initially anticipated. Cal quickly decides that his best bet would be to take the Mantis to Grease for repairs, who has since set up a cantina on the planet Kobo. So without delay, that's exactly where he goes. So after another happy landing, we must now navigate the wilds of Kobo to reach the settlement where Grease lives. For some reason there are battle droids on this planet, and that will make sense later. But they appear to be on the side of a new faction of enemies known as the Bedlam Raiders. Knowing Grease, they are certainly not friends of his. And of course on top of that, every Star Wars planet has aggressive deadly fauna. However, it doesn't take us too long to reach Rambler's Reach, the town where Grease lives, where we meet a character named Mosey who points us in the right direction. Finally, a friendly face. But before we can walk into Pyloon's saloon, a frog gets thrown out the door at us, followed by a rather angry looking man who has no problem putting the hurt on the frog creature. Cal, as a Jedi, is bound to not stand by, so he intervenes, only for an even bigger and angrier man to walk out from Pyloon's saloon. His mere step kicks up dust, so you know he means business. This is Ravis, the leader of the Bedlam Raiders. Respectfully, he explains to Cal why he cannot leave the frog alone, as the frog sold him a fake version of the key he's been searching for. The frog begs for his life, but Ravis orders his man to kill him. Cal responds by using the Force to physically intervene, destroying the droids immediately, and then igniting his lightsaber. Ravis is taken aback that he's happened upon a Jedi, despite their kind supposedly being dead. And then Cal and Ravis's lackey have a fight, which is relatively easy for Cal as it's a few hits and he's sorted. As opposed to being irritated or angered at his man's defeat, Ravis is impressed above all else, and respectfully asks if Cal lowers his weapon, he will withdraw in peace. Whilst it's clear they are not friends, there is a mutual respect between the protagonist and one of the many antagonists of this game. And I like when a big foe has more to them than simply being an antagonist for the sake of it. This is a character who believes himself to be honourable. So in that respect, this particular antagonist and Cal have common ground. Rayvis honours that agreement and simply walks away. Not permanently, simply with a modicum of respect. That leaves us to get formally introduced to the frog we rescued, Turgle, this game's comic relief character. Arguably George Lucas's favourite archetype of character, though unlike Jar Jar Binks, he's not a part of the crew, therefore is not invasive. We also get introduced to Doma, who runs a shop, but otherwise isn't that significant. However, Turgle is perhaps the most punchable frog I have ever seen.
That's right.
And that's a hefty accomplishment considering there are a lot of punchable frogs in these two games. And now finally we can mooch into Grease's new cantina, and hopefully while we're there get to the bottom of why the Mantis crew split up in the first place. Upon heading inside, we're greeted by a droid named Monk, and after a brief interaction, Grease comes out of his hiding spot. Simply put, it's clear he's not in Rayvis's good books. Whilst rambling away, he notices BD-1 before double-taking to realise that means Cal is here. In my mind, it's very Grease for this reunion to be handled this way. And on top of that, reuniting with a character from Jedi Fallen Order gives Cal the opportunity to explain his mental state at this time, or at least his mindset.
We are on Coruscant, gathering intel for Saw Gerrera. Things got bad. Only 2 of us made it out. Everything I'm doing feels pointless. The Empire's only growing stronger. Things, haven't been the same since the team split up.
Yeah, hey, we had some good times, didn't we, huh? Me, you, the Space Witch, Seer. Have you talked to her lately?
Marin's always on the move, exploring new places, making new friends.
I was talking about Seer.
The thing I like here is the story naturally gravitates towards moving away from the idea of sticking it to the Empire or rebuilding the Jedi Order or something else that we know Cal Kestis won't make a significant impact in doing. But what that plot will entail remains to be seen, at least in-universe for the time being. All we know is things haven't really been the same for Cal since the original Mantis crew split up. It's also worth noting that an eagle-eyed gamer will notice Grease has a mechanical arm now. Whoever hurt my boy Grease is getting hurt back. I'm sorry I don't make the rules. It's also worth noting that this game leans into an awful lot of self-contained fan service, which I can appreciate, rather than broader Star Wars universe fan service, which can get tiresome if it's for the sake of it. Anyway, for the time being, Grease has given us a bed down in the basement, which is a little bit disturbing, but whatever. So of course, Cal goes and gets some kip, only to be woken up by yet another callback to Jedi Fallen Order.
Still talking in your sleep, huh?
Guess some things never change.
Weirdo.
Hairball.
Lovely bit of back and forth banter, but this conversation is where the foundation for the story that's about to be told is set.
Thanks for letting me crash here.
Of course. Why do you think I've kept your stuff around all these years? I was hoping you'd stop by and maybe take a break.
We both know what happens when I stay in one place too long. You said there's a spare gyro around here somewhere?
We've got plenty of time to fix the Mantis. You are what I want to talk about.
I'm fine. The sooner we get moving, the better.
And then what, you're gonna go find some trouble with Saw Gerrera?
Maybe. Yeah, one of us has to keep fighting.
That's funny. That's the exact same thing you said the day we all split up.
Yeah, because All right, listen. I know you all had your reasons for leaving. But walking away isn't an option for me. I have to hold the line.
And where's that gotten you, Cal? Look, I wish things were different, but you keep losing people. And you yourself said that the Empire's growing stronger every day. Now maybe it's time for you to be something more than a lightsaber. Think about yourself. Settle down, find a home.
What home, Grease? There is no home. Home was the Order. It was my teacher. It was everyone I lost. What does their sacrifice mean if I go and I just give up and stick my head in the sand?
I know you were dealt a bad hand, but you gotta take it from me. Somebody who had to learn the hard way. You gotta know when to walk away from a rigged game. Otherwise, you are gonna end up losing something you could never replace.
Grease's advice makes sense here. He's pissing in the wind against the Empire, and maybe his efforts are better spent away from even the path of a Jedi. And this is the root of the reason the rest of the crew split up. They either needed to live for themselves or reorient their thinking in tackling the galaxy's problems. But anyway, for the time being, Grease claims there's a gyro in the basement to his basement, but Cal doesn't finish the conversation before saying this.
Grease, I'll think about what you said.
So Grease's advice that maybe Cal's best bet is to walk away doesn't fall on deaf ears. A little trawl through some smugglers' tunnels later, and Cal finds his much needed gyro. However, then BD1 and Cal fall through the floor, so there's that, arriving in some ruins that they simply must check out. Cal comments that this place reminds him of the Jedi training grounds, but older. And at the end of this short sequence, Cal and BD1 find an old droid from the High Republic era. Touching a device in its grasp, Cal uses the Force to sense a memory from that time, where the droid's memory is wiped regarding information on navigating something called the Kobo Abyss by Jedi Master Santari Kree. Upon trying to remove the device from the droid's hands, it wakes up, and clearly it has been down here for a very long time. The droid introduces herself as Z and is clearly a servant to the Jedi from days long gone. Cal works to free her, and together they escape from these ruins. Returning to the saloon, which is across the road from the exit to that ruin for some reason nobody noticed, we find Bode inside asking about Cal's whereabouts. Grease is playing dumb, suspecting him of being an Imperial spy or something, perhaps a lick of on-the-nose foreshadowing on this front, which the game does an awful lot of, to the point where on replay it was really obvious actually. Cal and Bode reunite with instant chemistry. Z requests Cal's help with her mission as tasked by Jedi Santari Kree to find the key to Tanalorr. Grease butts in, recognizing the Prospector's legend of a lost world full of treasure, so Cal has a new mission. Now, the story's main MacGuffin chase beginning in Grease's basement is a touch too convenient for my taste, but whatever. Sometimes you need that highly unlikely event to begin a journey. Star Wars is also the perfect universe to throw characters into continuously highly unlikely scenarios, because A, the universe is built on the premise of space wizards wielding laser swords, and B, it's Star Wars, and nobody has ever gone into a Star Wars product expecting the storytelling to not at least be slightly contrived as a principle. So Cal and BD1 prance forwards to the forest array with the Kobo tuna, contending with nature, Bedlam Raiders, and the Empire, and that of course includes a stormtrooper having an existential crisis.
I'll get you.
With some hefty puzzle business, we finally arrive at the forest array. This place is clearly from a different time, and I feel it's fitting to say here I certainly enjoy the High Republic lore that we get in this game, but it's here where Cal makes a massive discovery. There appears to be somebody preserved in Bacta. Using his special Force psychometry ability, Cal is sort of transported to Tanalorr, where he witnesses the memories of Jedi Dagan Gera, confirming that Tanalorr is indeed a real place. We learn Dagan intended to construct a Jedi temple on the planet, however at one point it was attacked. Ooh, a yellow lightsaber, that's very nice. Anyway, Dagan notices Cal and asks him to free him. So of course, no questions asked whatsoever, that's exactly what Cal does. After all, what could possibly go wrong? I honestly don't know what possesses Cal to not weigh up the options here. All he knows is Dagan is a Jedi, and perhaps that's enough to convince Cal to release the High Republic Jedi. At the same time, most of the Jedi Cal has encountered post-Order 66 have fallen to the dark side one way or another, be it as Inquisitors, like the Second and Ninth Sisters, or as fallen Jedi as seen with Tara Malicus. Even Seer has battled with the dark side, almost fully embracing it herself. It's my opinion that Cal is perhaps a touch too intelligent to pull off the dumb shit he literally just does in freeing Dagan Gera, but whatever, it's desperate times and a Jedi ally to fight the Empire with is something Cal would never pass up in equal measure, so that's my thought process. Perhaps in this moment Cal is clinging to his belief that he can save the galaxy that compels him to drain the tank and release the one-armed man. Upon doing so, Cal fills Dagan in on the state of the galaxy, asking Dagan what happened. As Dagan ponders over his crystal, his explanation for the betrayal he felt before being placed in the tank clearly speaks to a feeling of anger and hate. He bleeds his lightsaber's awesome yellow kyber crystal right in front of us, turning it red, and then attacks Cal. Note to self, never trust a droid you find in Grease's basement, I guess. Anyway, after a fairly brief fight, Ravis rocks up. It's clear the two are in cahoots, so Dagan slips away onto Ravis's gunship, leaving us with nothing to do but return to Rambler's Reach. With the Mantis now repaired, that is no doubt where we will find Grease and Bode. Once regrouped, Cal reports to Grease and Bode on his findings.
Dagan Gera. I freed him.
What happened?
He attacked me. Escaped with the Bedlam Raiders. He's who they've been looking for.
Is nobody going to call Cal out on this rather stakes-raising, poor judgment call? What matters is Tanalorr is no longer a myth, it's a fact, and should it be found it could function as a place where the Empire cannot find them. And thus, the story of Star Wars Jedi Survivor is revealed. It could be a home. In wake of that revelation, Cal asks Grease to rejoin the Mantis crew. Though at first reluctant, Cal convinces him and he agrees. We get this wholesome cutscene, and the crew figure out their next move. The most likely individual Cal knows, who might know anything about a lost Jedi world, would be Seer Junda. So it's off to Jeddah for us. I really appreciate that this meaningful plot point is what brings the original Mantis crew back together. Grease has returned to his piloting ways, and before long, we'll be seeing Seer again, and learning about what she's gotten up to. It's become clear by this point that having the Mantis crew split up at the beginning of this game was the right decision creatively, because every character but Cal has moved on, and now the story's giving Cal a reason to move on, and as a result a reason to reconnect with those characters in a meaningful way. That progress is therefore more rewarding because the characters aren't there to begin with. Anyway, it's time to crack on. You may remember Jeddah as the planet they introduced in Rogue One, a Star Wars story, just to blow it up. In fact, Star Wars has always been incredibly adept at blowing up a planet first, and then making us care about it afterwards. If somebody pipes up with the fact that Jeddah is actually a moon, I swear to God, you will receive the slipper. En route, we receive a transmission from the surface where Cal is incredibly rude to this lovely anchorite, and we discover that due to a storm, the Mantis will have to land some distance away, so Seer will send an escort to guide Cal to her base. Cal is clearly disappointed that Seer won't be meeting him herself, but I guarantee you he won't care when he realises who's being sent in her stead. Anyway, with that conversation concluded, it's time to arrive at Jeddah. What a lovely moon, I hope nobody blows it up. We land out in the desert, and here's a thought, why don't we wait for the storm to pass and then just go in with the ship? I mean, it is a game, it hardly needs to justify throwing in an extra gameplay sequence, it's kind of the point of it being a video game. It takes a whole 2 seconds to find the aggressive insects, and then a further 3 seconds to discover the Imperial presence on the world. It also appears as if we step on the sand for too long we'll be eaten by an underground monster, so don't be doing that. A slight bit of intense animal cruelty later, and I eventually figured out where I need to go. The stormtroopers appear to be distracted by this speeder, except for Jetpack Guy. He's on it. So now we've got to slaughter some bad guys and leave no witnesses, because if there are witnesses, then no doubt there'll be more Imperials here. After all, Cal is a Jedi, that's illegal. But before things can get too out of hand, our guide comes to the rescue. It's none other than Night Sister Merrin, with goofy cartoonish animations. And obviously she wrecks the stormtroopers' shit. Was this guy even paying attention? I find it incredibly entertaining how the Empire dominates the galaxy and yet everyone involved with them is massively incompetent. Anyway, we've now reunited with Merrin, probably when we were starting to wonder when she would factor into the story.
Come.
Oh, aye. Turns out the speeder is Merrin's. The bad news is it's now on fire. Sadly, apparently Seer's base is too far away to reach on foot even with the storm subsided. But I'm sure there'll be an animal nearby that Cal can Jedi mind trick into domestication. Oh, hello. This is the Spammel. It's a camel, but it's alien and it's also 20 feet tall. I thought Merrin could teleport. Never mind. Whilst on Spammel back, Cal and Merrin catch up. We learn that Cal has avoided Seer, and by extension we can gather, based on the fact he hasn't seen Grease and Merrin in a while, that for the most part he's avoided them too. It seems he was angry with his former crew for leaving. The reasons for which he explained to Grease earlier. Walking away didn't feel like an option for him. But it's clear in his interaction for these characters so far, that was more a projection than something he held against them. All Cal knows is running and fighting, and at this point in his life he's frustrated that his fighting has accomplished precious little. Anyway, for now let's move on. As Cal, BD and Merrin ride through the desert, the storm begins to pick back up. The visibility quickly decreases as the horizon is enveloped in dust and sand, and upon being startled, the Spammel flings Cal and Merrin from its back, scattering them in the middle of the storm. Their best bet now is to regroup and find some shelter, quickly accomplishing the first bit. However, they have to fight some Imperials before they can reach any form of shelter, and that includes going sicko mode on an ATST. Safe. Cal, BD1 and Merrin conveniently find a cave where the Spammel had taken refuge.
Sit. Tell me what adventures you and BD have had since we last saw each other.
Alright. Same as always. Fighting the Empire, helping out where we can. Not staying in one place too long. And, I think we might have found something special. A place where the Empire can't find us. But it would mean leaving the fight. And the fight is all I know.
Cal. Look into the fire. It will warm you. Keep you company. On dark, lonesome nights, yes? But left unchecked, it will consume everything in its path. Until there is only ash.
Merrin's advice to Cal here calls back to Grease's advice, or at least the gambler's analogies aspect to it. Simply put, being passionate isn't the problem, but an obsession will rob you of things that you may never even know you had. A fire will burn anything in its path if left uncontrolled, meaning once again in Cal's mind, perhaps it's time to reorient his thinking and walk away from the rigged game, as Grease puts it, that is fighting the Empire. Cal's obsession with, or addiction to, the action has blinded him, and now he's genuinely reflecting on that. Despite the suggestion that choice words were exchanged when the Mantis crew split up, the game does well to not demonstrate bad blood, because all of that exists in Cal's mind. As he's reconnecting with these characters, he's realizing that maybe walking away was the right choice for them. And by extension, he's wondering if doing so would be the right decision for him too.
I had to leave, Cal. In order to see the galaxy on my own terms.
What'd you find?
Myself. Reflected in all the places and people I encountered. Dathomir will always be my home, but it does not need to define me.
I never understood why you left. But sitting here now, clear you made the right choice.
Perhaps Merrin has an example for Cal here. Yes, he is a Jedi and that is a huge part of him, but what if he can also be more than a lightsaber, as Grease puts it? The rest of this cutscene sets up that perhaps there's some naughty Jedi tension going on, and perhaps a passing critique on the Jedi philosophy on attachments will be just what Cal needs to realise there's more to life than being a weapon to a republic that no longer exists. The next morning, the storm has finally passed, so it's time to get a move on. A short trek and we are finally at the entrance to Cere's base, which was only like a few hundred meters away. Why didn't we firm it? However, it's who greets us that truly catches me off guard in the best possible way.
Hello, my friend. It's so very good to see you again.
It's none other than Jedi Master himself, Eno Cordova. Over the course of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, following in his footsteps, we are led to believe that this man is dead. However, Jedi Survivor has proven to us that that is not the case. In hindsight, Jedi Fallen Order only alludes to a potential fate but never suggests anything concrete as far as Cordova's concerned, so him rocking up alive and well on Jedha here makes sense. If anything, this interaction is rewarding across the entirety of Cal's journey in both games so far, and as I suggested before, demonstrates how this game is excellent at self-setting up and then executing fanservice the right way. It no longer needs to draw from the broader universe to come up with exciting moments and draw smiles from those who experience it. Using Jedi Fallen Order as the foundation, it can now do so naturally, using its own characters, which I massively respect. It appears Merrin and Cordova have known each other for some time now, and I find it really interesting that Merrin didn't mention this to Cal on the ride over, mind you. After all, it's not like she wasn't aware of his significance to Cal's journey, but I suppose for obvious reasons, seeing is believing. As we enter the base's hangar, the Mantis flies in, proving that we could have just waited for the storm to subside and then fly in on the Mantis, but it was worth the rigmarole for the awesome character moments that we've received. So while Cordova and Merrin wait to greet the rest of the Mantis crew, we're sent forth to meet Cere, the final piece of this character puzzle. Heading on into the next room, we find an archive not dissimilar to the one found on the Jedi Temple, and it's here where Cere Junda is found.
Cal Kestis. Welcome to Jedha. I knew the storm wouldn't deter you.
You're rebuilding the temple archives.
We're trying. As long as this knowledge remains, the legacy of the Jedi survives.
It's incredible. But something tells me there's more to this than just holobooks.
Cere explains that she's part of an underground network known as the Hidden Path. This underground network shelters Jedi and other Force sensitives from the Empire. You may recognise this organisation from its appearance in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and if you don't, I don't blame you. But as an interesting bit of trivia, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and this game take place within the same year. It's unclear if it takes place before, after, or concurrently, but it doesn't really matter. I just find that light correlation to be half-decent world building. I've taken to approximating that these two stories are taking place rather concurrently, because I find the idea of the Hidden Path just having a really bad week entertaining as fuck. Cal explains to Cere that he feels his fight with the Empire has proven pointless or fruitless, to which Cere explains to him that whilst the Empire was training its sights on him, they were able to set up the Hidden Path and actually do some good. So Cal, aware of it or not, has contributed to bettering the galaxy, and in this moment that's exactly what he needs to hear.
When he left, you'd just given up. I was wrong.
Cal, you were just a child when they sent you off to war. You know, there was a time when I remember that Jedi were more than just weapons. But we both have our roles to play in this struggle.
Before Cal can get down to business, the rest of the crew rock up, and we get a lovely reunion.
Will you get a load of this? Hey, Seer, you can't say it ain't short of personality, but kind of creepy, though.
Well, it's good to see you too, Grease. Well, hello, BD.
Okay.
So, how was your time in the desert?
The storm covered our tracks, but the Empire destroyed one of your speeders.
It's a small price to pay for everybody's safe arrival. And who's this?
This is Bodo Kuna. He's a friend.
It's so nice to finally meet you.
This hunk of trouble. Hey, we're all together. Huh?
With the crew now reassembled, it's time to reorient and focus on the main focal point of the plotline. And that, of course, is finding Tanalorr. Cal asks for information regarding the Jedi known as Dagan Gera, as well as intel on navigating the Kobo Abyss that might exist within the archives, leaving Eno Cordova with the difficult task of Googling. Of course, the concept of a Jedi temple on Tanalorr that the Empire can't reach is enticing to Seer, and it doesn't take long for Cordova to find something. Whilst there was no information regarding the Kobo Abyss, Dagan Gera had a retreat on Kobo, and a laboratory on its moon. And just like that, we now have a lead to follow. Just as quickly as we arrived, it's almost time to depart. We can choose where to go from here. We can research Tanalorr on the Shattered Moon, or head to Dagan's retreat on Kobo to do the same. This can be done in either order, but regardless, you need to do both. Sadly, none of the characters we've reconnected with on Jeddah are going to be joining us. It'll just be Grease and Bode. Speaking of Bode, before we leave, he hands us a blaster, to which of course Cal says this.
My master always frowned upon using blasters.
So uncivilized.
I find it a bit strange that Obi-Wan Kenobi's personal opinion on blasters is now being applied to other Jedi, but whatever. No doubt it wasn't an uncommon opinion amongst Jedi, but it was hardly doctrine for a Jedi to not use a blaster. In fact, many do. We've seen loads of Jedi pick up a blaster, including Obi-Wan himself. But I actually like what this represents when it comes to the Jedi prior to their fall during the fall of the Republic. They grew complacent, perhaps even arrogant. They were far too involved in a conflict, whilst also preaching peace. Cal picking up a blaster, even if it's just for gameplay purposes, goes to show that he doesn't have that same problem. He's not dismissive of the weapon as a potential useful tool in his arsenal, so he accepts the gift. It's not that deep, it's just an excuse for us to be able to use a blaster in gameplay if we so wish to do so, but you could certainly argue a meaning there as well. But as Merrin reminds Cal, it's not the lightsaber that makes the Jedi, but something tells me this isn't entirely what Grease meant when he said maybe it's time to be more than just a lightsaber. But anyway, let's head out. The Shattered Moon is very shattered for High Republic lore reasons, and there isn't really an awful lot to this place, at least not yet. For the most part, you're navigating a facility fighting Bedlam raiders with minimal story interruptions, and that includes a room full of battle droids just waiting to be activated that you'll do well to simply use the Force on and throw them into one another before they get a chance to wake up. The reason being otherwise you are going to get a bit battered. We also get to fight a Magna Guard, which are the bodyguard droids that General Grievous uses in Revenge of the Sith, the ones that if you decapitate them they don't necessarily die. After a touch more trawling through the space, we also happen upon a Bedlam raider armed with a lightsaber, discover the shitty Kylo Ren crossguard, and kill the bastard. And then we can apply that crossguard design to our own lightsaber, and as a result we've unlocked a rather fancy stance. It's quite slow, but it deals heavy attacks that do massive damage. I just personally dislike it because I think the crossguard element takes away from the elegance of the lightsaber's design. However, we've acquired what we came for, a mysterious High Republic device. And that's kind of it for the Shattered Moon for now. Back on Kobo, we must navigate the wilds once again to reach Dagan's retreat. However, whilst on our way there, we are tracked down and attacked by a bounty hunter from the Haxian Brood. The Haxian Brood clearly have an unfriendly past with Grease that Cal was on the receiving end of the bad side of in Jedi Fallen Order. And now they're back, because we need to fight some bounty hunters. They're interesting bosses, but upon defeating our new bounty hunter friend, we're introduced to a character named Cage. Also a bounty hunter, she claims she'll reward us for every bounty hunter we take down. Why? Because apparently she wants peace and quiet, which is very obviously a lie. This character isn't likeable remotely, and whilst I understand the ultimate reward for doing these bounty hunts is quite something, I'm not doing this. No, just no. There's plenty of side content in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and if I'm being honest, I didn't feel especially compelled to do most of it. Anyway, after some lovely platforming, fighting, and puzzles, we finally arrive at Dagon's retreat, where we have to fight yet another Bedlam Raider with a lightsaber. Rather easy in the grand scheme of boss fights, so nothing to worry about there. And now we're free to examine Dagon's Kobo retreat, where we discover another broken, strange device, and thanks to Cal's Force Psychometry ability, we can discover it was damaged by a lightsaber to ensure that Dagon didn't get it, resulting in Dagon killing these two Jedi instead. So it turns out the geezer we freed from the tank has been a naughty boy for quite some time. It's clear that for whatever reason, Dagon's obsession with Tanalorr has blinded him, by consequence forsaking the ways of the Jedi long before we ever met him. This is why you don't free strange men from stasis, Cal. Now all that's left is to return to Jeddah and give the strange devices to Eno Cordova and see what he makes of them.
A strange device. This one seems to be a duplicate. Both have been damaged by lightsabers.
Wasn't me. This time.
Perish the thought,
You think you can fix it?
I don't know. But I will certainly try.
Master Junda, the Empire is nearing Pilgrim Sanctuary.
Is it a strike force?
No, an excavation team.
Good. They don't know about the safe house.
Yet.
Safe house?
Hidden in the ruins. Have we begun evacuations?
They're already underway, but Brother Armias isn't responding.
Armias has the communication codes.
If they capture him, they could put the entire hidden path at risk.
I know the ruins. I will go.
I'm coming with you.
So now while Cordova attempts to fix the mysterious devices, we're going to aid Merrin in rescuing Brother Armias, so the contact codes for the hidden path don't fall into the hands of the Empire. This allows us to A, spend more time with Merrin and see how Cal and Merrin's relationship has expanded since Jedi Fallen Order further, and B, see how the buddy AI system can be both useful and not obstructive when you simply need to go it alone. And C, ride more Spammel. And yes, you can pet the Spammel. Of course, at this point in the story, there is a hefty Imperial presence that we will need to cut our way through, so be sure to put on your ruthless pants. At certain points during this mission, Merrin will come and go, so some points you'll be on your own, other times you'll have your ally there with you, which is nice, and you'll have to do a bucket load of environmental puzzles to access the Hidden Path's safe house. And then there's a fight with a big scorpion who clearly is left-handed. It's certainly a long-winded section of the game, but it is worth it in my opinion. Oh, bugger. Any excuse to make this portion of the game longer was certainly taken. That's all I'm saying. I actually quite liked how it's handled, but I can understand why people might say it's a bit tedious at this point, because I can certainly see that too. We also meet a gigantic character named Pissy who likes gardening. So after this interaction, she'll somehow relocate to Kobo, and yeah, this segment is still nowhere near done. Thanks to heavy winds that managed to push Cal across massive gaps, there's only one real place for Cal to go. However, sadly, due to the heavy winds, that appears to be a dead end until we receive this flashback.
Welcome back.
Hey,
The Imperial labor camp on Maza.
the garrison's half empty. We can strike before reinforcements arrive.
Sounds promising, but Merrin and Grease haven't made it back to the ship yet.
As soon as they do, I'll scout ahead and they can rest on the Mantis.
You know they'll never allow themselves to rest if you're in danger. You never give up. And that's what inspires all of us. But you have to remember that where you lead, they will follow.
I know I've been pushing recently, but ever since Grease
What
got hurt...
happened to Grease is not your fault. But ever since then, you've been reckless.
I keep worrying about something bad happening to one of you.
It's good to acknowledge your fear. But don't let it determine your path. Focus on the moment. Choose your direction and act with certainty. And trust that, whatever the odds, you'll pull through. Cal, trust yourself.
Trust in the Force.
Exactly.
And now, whilst jumping, we can do a dash. Unlike Jedi Fallen Order's gameplay sequence flashbacks with Jaro Tapal teaching Cal tricks for the first time, now, through memories of advice given to him by Seer, are experienced purely in cutscene form. However, in remembering it, he's learning new abilities such as how to dash through winds that could otherwise sweep him off his feet. And now for the rest of the game, it's going to be absolutely necessary to use this dash for every single jump that you do. The joy of learning this awesome new skill is interrupted by the mechanical octopus of destruction, but thankfully we can now move faster, and that is what Brother Armias is going to need. We make our way to some old temple, right above the Hidden Path Sanctuary, and it appears the Imperials have no clue what it is they're standing right on top of. But the presence of a Jedi interfering with their activity here is likely indicating something. After a brief swim and another puzzle, we gain access to the hideout, finally.
Easy now. See your Junda sent me.
Master Junda, you used the Force, you're Cal Kestis.
It's time to go. The Empire's closing in.
Yes, which is why this must make it back to Master Junda. These contact codes cannot fall into the hands of the Empire.
After all that, are you fucking serious? Anyway, Merrin's here to stop us from getting crushed, and gives us a charm that allows us to pass through these shield things. Brother Armias' death was certainly handled with a comedic flair to it. I don't know if that was intentional or not, because he's been bigged up, we need to save him, etc., then he just gets crushed the moment we find him. But at least we have the contact codes now, so provided we don't get crushed too, the hidden path is safe for the time being. However, it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't do at least some damage to the giant metal destruction octopus, though for now it doesn't take long for Cal and Merrin to reach another dead end.
Dead end!
We make a stand?
Do you trust me?
Of course. What are you up to?
No time to explain. Do you trust me?
Yes.
The funniest part is, during the time it takes for this long kiss scene to play out, there absolutely was time for Merrin to explain she opened a Night Sister portal, and they can use it to navigate the big machine.
Was that for luck?
No. Hurry.
BD1 must feel incredibly awkward in this situation. He must be massively confused. Anyway, jumping through this portal begins one of the most intense and cool action set pieces in the entire game. Whilst this danger squid is trying to kill us, we're using portals to jump about, knowing that if we fall and fail, we'll have to start all over again from the very beginning. It's fast-paced as anything, and we need to utilise every single navigational skill that we have. And I honestly like how this is composed, with the TIE fighter shooting at us as we're going down a zip line and all sorts. It's just awesome. Eventually, Cal and Merrin's portal prancing brings them to this plateau, where their combined powers and pent-up sexual tension destroy the big machine, the name of which escapes me. I'm sure it has one somewhere. And what a brilliant action sequence it certainly was. With the contact code secured and Brother Armias a pancake, all that remains is to return to Seer's base. I'm sure she'll want to hear the news of the death of her ally.
couldn't save Armias. He gave his life for this. I'm sorry.
I know you did your best, Cal. And the Empire?
They did not track us.
Hey, Scrapper. Glad you made it back in one piece.
Master Cordova, did you find a way across the Abyss?
No. But you may have, Cal. Bode and I were able to find some interesting data in the archives.
Let's show them what we dug up.
Centuries ago, the Republic established the colony on Kobol to study a stellar anomaly known as the Abyss. Santari Khri led the research team.
That Z with him.
Early attempts to navigate the Abyss ended in disaster. The Republic was on the verge of abandoning the project.
And then guess who volunteers to fly in alone and discovers a planet on the other side?
Dagan.
Using the data from his voyage, Khri invented the Abyss Compass to guide others safely to Tanalorr.
The Republic established a settlement. The Jedi built a temple. Just like you said, Cal.
Regrettably, a time of peace and prosperity was disrupted when Outer Rim marauders invaded.
I saw them too, but how'd they get across the Abyss?
He must have stolen a compass. Don't worry, we won't be so careless.
Overwhelmed, the Republic abandoned Tanalorr, and the Jedi Council ordered Khri to destroy the compasses.
Dagan Gera refused and rebelled against the Order.
That is a Gendai. They do not often ally with other species.
Looks like Ravis has been working with Dagan for a lot longer than we thought.
So the Order sent Jedi to secure the compasses. Dagan murders them over it.
Jedi. Killing other Jedi.
But Centauri said that Dagan was the key to Tanalorr.
Maybe he is, young Jedi. Despite my efforts, those compasses you brought me were beyond repair. However, records indicate that 3 were unaccounted for.
So you're saying one might still be out there?
Yes.
And Dagan sent his army to look for it.
I'd ask you to stay and help us, but I recognize that look.
What look?
Hope. That planet could be a haven for those who stand against the Empire.
So you coming with us? I mean, Grease can make room on the Mantis. For all of you.
No. This place needs me. The Hidden Path needs me.
Cordova?
I'm sorry, my friend. But for now, my place is on Jeddah with Seer. Let me prepare a data stick so you'll have access to our research wherever your journey takes you.
Let me guess. You're staying too.
When we first met, I thought that what we shared was unique. Survivors, fighting together against the Empire who took our families.
Yeah. You helped me realize I wasn't alone.
As did you. But there is a galaxy full of people who have suffered as we have. It's as Seer said. Perhaps you have found a sanctuary for them.
Perhaps. If we can get to it.
I will join you. Besides, it's been far too long since I've made Grease's hair stand on end.
So now Merrin has rejoined the crew. Sadly, Seer won't be joining us, neither will Eno Cordova. But thanks to information Cordova and Bode dug up, we've discovered that Ravis has been allied with Dagan Gera for a long time. And since, as Merrin puts it, they don't often ally with other species, whatever bond they share is going to be especially hard to break. As for Dagan himself, he may indeed be the key to finding Tanalorr. However, Cordova's final revelation was that there was a third compass that may indeed still be out there, and the surest way to find it is to return to Kobo and pursue Dagan. However, this is where I quite enjoyed having a few chinwags with characters in the Jeddah base, including learning more about Eno Cordova.
I'm curious to hear what you make of Dagan Gera's history.
Dagan felt like his life's work was being threatened. That obsession led him astray.
Sounds all too familiar.
What do you mean?
You may recall that I had a vision foretelling the fall of the Order. But the Council... well, let's just say that my warnings fell on deaf ears. In my arrogance, I felt betrayed.
But you were right.
That's beside the point. I allowed my wounded pride to cloud my judgment. When the purge began, I was still searching for proof that my vision was true. Instead of being there to support Seer and her Padawan.
How did you survive Order 66?
My search for the Zepho took me off the radar of the Council. No one knew where I was, not even the clone troopers. When I heard what had happened to the Order, it was too late.
What'd you do?
I tried to make contact, but received no response. So, like most of us, I hid.
I'm just glad you're safe.
So the Cordova we knew from Jedi Fallen Order was different in some way to the Cordova we know in Jedi Survivor. He claims he felt betrayed by the Jedi Order, going off and doing his own thing out of pride, though that's probably what kept him alive. It's interesting how we get to explore that character's development even if only retroactively. We can also learn about his early life in which he references characters from the mainstream Star Wars movies.
Tell me about the Order in your day, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, Qui-Gon Jinn and I enjoyed a close friendship.
I've heard stories about Master Qui-Gon. You knew him?
That's right. When I first arrived on Coruscant, he was kind enough to show me around.
You as a youngling, with Master Qui-Gon as your tour guide.
It was his home, after all. I can't bring myself to go back there. There are too many memories.
We understand.
Conversations with characters here is a bird's nest for lore for certain, especially with some of the missable interactions with Cordova, and I really like that they are there if you seek them out, and only then. Another conversation with Cordova calls back to Grease's Yaddle topic from Jedi Fallen Order.
Did you know Master Yaddle?
I did?
Grease asked Seer about her once. I think he had a crush.
Master Yaddle was strong-willed, a strange sense of humor. I enjoyed her company immensely.
My master was her Padawan. He said she trained harder than anyone he knew, which was really something if you knew Jaro Tapal.
I'm sure an opportunity will arise later to gush further over Star Wars lore, but for the time being, we have to depart back for Kobo, because now Cal is fully convinced in the cause to find Tanalorr, and finding Dagan first, or at least the third compass, is perhaps our best bet. However, we learn that disaster has struck on Kobo, with the Bedlam Raiders raiding Pyloon's saloon and droid-napping Z. Grease, of course, blames Turgle, because who wouldn't blame Turgle? Clearly Dagan has some form of interest in the droid, and she's been taken to the old separatist Lucahulk that can be found on Kobo. So no doubt that is where our heroes must journey to next. As a bonus, it's sure to be crammed with battle droids, and they come out with some funky shit. We'll also have Bode with us, so that's another positive. And he certainly comes out with some interesting bits in this segment. However, it would be really funny if his jetpack failed here. All it takes is a brief trudge through the swamps, and we're at the Lucahulk. We face some Bedlam Raiders and some droids to get us eased into the program, I suppose, and it doesn't take us long to realise this place is going to be absolutely thick with enemies. But considering where we are, we'd expect nothing less. But from the gameplay perspective, the Lucahulk in general is certainly a slog. But from a story perspective, the thing that intrigues me most about this entire segment is Bode's choices for topics of conversation.
So Marin decided to come after all.
Yeah, because Tanalorr could really help the path.
All right. But you do seem happier now that she's around.
Okay, let's focus. C needs us.
Something about Bode pointing out Cal's feelings struck me as weird. It wouldn't raise eyebrows coming from a character like Grease, who's known Cal and Merrin for some time and can therefore pick up on subtlety easier. My thought process playing this through for the first time was either Bode is suspiciously perceptive, or he has some kind of undisclosed agenda. And he doesn't just mention this once in a throwaway comment. During this mission, he repeats it almost incessantly.
So, you know she didn't just join to find Tanalorr, right?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Whatever you say, Cal.
Bode is prodding here. Surely his focus would be on Tanalorr, on a safe home for Carter. It seems illogical that Bode would even care about Cal's romantic interests. Whilst the two have some form of on-screen charisma together, they've probably known each other around a week, at best. Maybe for the time being I'm reading a touch too far into it. But later in the game it absolutely makes sense, even if at this point, as far as we can tell, Cal hasn't given too much away. But one way or another, Bode is demonstrating an incredible degree of perceptiveness here. And that's not a critique in any way, shape or form. It feels designed to make you ask questions of Bode. How has he come to that conclusion so quickly? Even if it is a little bit obvious, which, to be fair, when it comes to Jedi, it isn't. Unless, of course, and then be confident in that assumption to openly make suggestions. Had Merrin been around the crew for longer than 5 minutes in this game by this point, it would certainly be far less improbable. And whilst it's not impossible for Bode to come to the conclusions that he clearly has so quickly here, why would he bring it up unless he had his own reasons for doing so? And considering this is Star Wars, I highly doubt he wants a threesome. I feel as if this aspect is designed to make us question Bode a bit, even if only innocently, though Cal's dismissal of the topic every time it comes up does kind of give it away to Bode as is. Bode still initially raised the topic seemingly out of nowhere, and based on a minimal amount of evidence. Later on, as we've explored more of the Luca Hulk, he gives more advice regarding this information.
I'm just taking it day by day.
Maybe figure something out with Merrin?
She's got her path, I've got mine.
Yeah, I've heard Jedi avoid attachment, but...
That's right.
Just don't forget who you really are.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means trust your heart. Things are only getting worse out there. Life is precious. And so is happiness.
I wish it were that simple.
It is that simple. If you see a future with Merrin, embrace it.
I don't understand. I can't just...
Of course, the conversation is interrupted by a ray shield. Bode brings up that he heard Jedi avoid attachment, and maybe Cal should instead embrace a future in which he's happy. For the time being, it sounds like friendly advice, and even later on in the game it still comes across that way. But perhaps it also says something about Bode, and that will make sense later, and if it doesn't, I'm terrible at explaining things. However, for the time being, due to being split up, Cal and Bode must go their separate ways, leading Cal into some dark rooms and narrow passageways. What could possibly go wrong down here?
Jedi. You're a bold one.
Ravis is here to absolutely clatter Cal about. He's a seasoned warrior with centuries worth of experience. It makes sense that he knew Cal was there. He's also quite a large antagonist, so confronting him in an enclosed space is a good way to play on how terrifying that might be. Ravis wants to kill Cal for above all else the enjoyment and honour that comes from it. However, BD1 to the rescue. This was a true taster of Ravis's might, and we will certainly have to face him again before the game is up. As for now, there is no way to go but down, where Cal encounters these turrets, and it reminds him of something that Seer once told him.
They're onto us. We have to get out of here now. That was clever.
Sometimes the solution to a problem lies in how it's framed. Always consider the situation from multiple angles.
Always giving me a new perspective, eh, Seer?
With this newly learned ability, it doesn't take Cal long to get back on track. After a fight with some more droids and Bedlam Raiders, he eventually makes his way back to where Ravis is, this time being able to avoid detection. This time he also finds Dagon, allowing him to eavesdrop on their conversation.
Centauri, your work is unparalleled. But sending a droid instead of facing me yourself, such cowardice.
A small price to pay for her sparing your life.
Tell me, did the Jedi's death satisfy you?
He escaped.
All those years of incarceration dull your edge.
Sharp enough to see the Jedi might be your equal.
Say it again and I'll cut out your tongue.
It'll grow back. Dagon, listen. The Jedi is a threat.
Not now that we have this.
I already duplicated the device's frequencies. We can now access any site she sealed.
Well done, Ravis. You, activate the forest array. Go to the Shattered Moon. I know where Centauri hid the last compass.
Dagon. After you have it, I will consider my oath to you fulfilled.
What then, old friend?
The galaxy has changed. There are many wars, but little honor to be won from them.
Once we are on Tanalorr, perhaps we can dream up a new war. You and I.
Perhaps. Before I go, do you want me to scrap the droid?
No. Centauri must have purged the droid's memory bank. Has no knowledge of the compass. I will tear it down to the bolts and reprogram it to serve me as it once served her.
We've come to learn a few things here. Dagon knows where Centauri hid the last of the 3 compasses, and this specifically happens to be what Cal himself is after. And to learn where this is, our best bet is to confront Ravis on the Shattered Moon. For the time being, however, we've got to hopefully rescue Z and avoid them both, because of course I'm sure that will go according to plan. We find Z rather easily, but sadly Dagon Gera finds us.
That droid is mine.
I suppose I'll rescue myself.
So you survived Ravis. How?
The usual. You murdered your fellow Jedi.
I struck down those who stood against me. Leave us or share their fate?
Even if you believe the Council betrayed you, they were still your family.
How arrogant. That you would presume to know what drives me?
What I can see is your obsession with Tanalorr has blinded you. Whatever happened, you can't change the past. Trust me on that one.
Perhaps you're right. The past is a chain. I must sever it completely.
This cutscene proves one thing to Cal. It's impossible to reason with Dagon. He is too far gone. His obsession has led him so far astray that it's all that exists, it's all that matters in his mind. And any words wasted on trying to reason with this man will result in those words being used against Cal. In this fight, despite having only the one arm, Dagon demonstrates his immense force abilities. Cal recovers the Kobo tuner, but it doesn't matter because Ravis has made copies of its frequencies. And now we've got to fight Dagon again, though he's slightly stronger than the first time, though of course we will not be able to defeat him here. Even with assistance from Bode, he manages to get away. And with Dagon's escape, we must now absolutely certainly track down Ravis in order to figure out where he's going. Though without Bode's intervention, I'm led to believe it's certain that Cal would have probably been killed. For now, all that remains to do is to collect Z and abscond. And of course, the quickest way out of the Lucahulk would be via the escape pods. Of course, Bode and Z don't mind, however for Cal, his master died in an escape pod. That same escape pod condemned him to 5 years in a scrap heap on Baraka. So in that sense, his ability to remain composed with such a plan suggests how far his character has come.
I hate these things.
And just like that, the ordeal is over. An escape pod is insignificant in every single way, it's simply a means to leave the Lucasfilm, but I like how the game addresses that Cal associates them with the death of his master, and it subtly demonstrates how far Cal has come on his journey since, that he's willing to use one anyway, even if the very thought of doing so bothers him. But now we can return to Rambler's Reach, content in the knowledge that we accomplished what we set out to do in rescuing Z. Unfortunately though, our only lead with regards to tracking down Dagon comes with facing Giga Chad Squidward, and so the journey will no doubt continue on Kobo's shattered moon. Upon arrival, the facility is swarming with vulture droids, so Merrin uses that Night Sister magic to camouflage the ship, like she does in Jedi Fallen Order. She's done it before, she'll do it again. I guess that's something she does often these days, but thanks to her efforts we get to land safely and soundly. Naturally, the only way through to Ravis is through this intermittent death laser, so we need to time our movements between the bursts, otherwise we're going to get zapped. Like that, I guess. And of course, to complicate matters, we've also got to face more Bedlam Raiders. Fortunately, the death laser works on them too, so I'm really not complaining. There's even a trophy for that. Ideal. But this segment isn't actually too long, and along the way, Ravis is fully aware that we've come for him, and gives us his take on the comparison between the Jedi of the Clone Wars and the Jedi of the High Republic.
Jedi, I know you are still with us. You're resilient, I'll give you that. The power is everything. Power is freedom. You will see my power for yourself. I always wondered something about the Jedi. Your ideals teach patience, peace, humility. Yet these are empty mantras. Jedi brutality is what the galaxy remembers.
Got something to help me?
Not diplomacy. Those who fell to this empire are a pale shadow compared to those from Dagon's days. And yet, you persevere. Perhaps you'll surprise me. You must want to help very badly. How far would you go, I wonder? You've already killed for it. Maybe you're going to do it at my will. I will show you no mercy. In return, I would expect.
Only way up is ahead.
Yeah, I cocked up that bit pretty badly. But despite Ravis's critical opinion on the Jedi, of late anyway, he seems to have respect for Cal. Or at least hopes that Cal will be different. It doesn't make them anywhere near allies, but Ravis is effectively expecting an honourable fight, laying down those expectations by saying he will have no mercy for Cal, and expects none from Cal either. But before that, we arrive at Santari Khri / Dagon Gera's study of sorts, where we have another Force Psychometry flashback.
Centauri.
Dagon, what have you done?
What I must.
Stop.
But you want what I want. Why else would you deceive the Council?
You've lost your way. Surrender. And we can figure this out, together.
Come with me.
It's too late for that.
Such despair, Centauri. Tanalorr. You can feel it slipping away.
My despair is for you. Tanalorr has changed you.
It's changed you as well. Step aside.
No.
Then I must go it alone.
Centauri.
Get a medical droid in here and prepare a back-to-tank.
So that explains how Dagan lost his arm, and it also explains how he wound up in a back-to-tank. As for right now, Cal discovers an upgrade for his grapple that allows him to reach Ravis.
Jedi.
Why did you activate the array?
It's been many years since I last took the life of a Jedi.
Why did you activate the...
I heard you. Long ago, Dagan bested me in combat. Earned my loyalty. We fought side by side until the Jedi betrayed him. Took many of your order to defeat me. And yet, they dishonored me. Denied me a warrior's death. Left me to rot in a cage for centuries. So, it seems our destinies are intertwined. The demise of your order allowed me to escape.
And yet, nothing has changed. You're still just Dagan's servant.
Time does not diminish my loyalties. Without a code, you can only serve yourself.
Where's the compass, Ravis?
I owe you nothing, Jedi! If you want that knowledge from me, you're gonna have to fight for it.
Above all else, this is what Ravis is after. The honour of battle or the honour of facing a warrior's death. He may not be an ally, but he has a code. He has a set of beliefs that he clings to. And should we best him in combat, he will reveal everything we want to know about Dagan. His loyalties to him aren't diminished. It's simply the bargain he strikes for a good fight. And he'd also prefer to have that fight because he believes Cal to be a threat. If Ravis beats Cal, Cal is no longer a threat, and if Cal beats Ravis, then he gets a warrior's death, and stands to lose nothing in telling Cal the information he wishes to know, and I believe it to be refreshing for Star Wars for an antagonist to be logical for one, but also be built on in-universe respectable foundations.
I've been waiting for this. For 200 years!
Anyway, as the fight drags on, Ravis gradually gets more and more aggressive, but of course, before too long,
I yield. You have proven yourself.
Where is the compass?
Centauri Kree's observatory, as Dagan suspected. I have opened the way. He goes there now.
I defeated you. Fight with me. We can take on Dagan together.
I will not, Jedi. After all these centuries, I still dream of Tanalorr. I had hoped to see it again, but... that is not to be.
This...
Dagan Gera stands in your way.
You don't have to do this.
Only one of you will reach Tanalorr. Jedi, give me my warrior's death. Now!
Cal kills Ravis despite him being literally unarmed in every single sense of the word. Not necessarily the Jedi way, but the Jedi don't really exist anymore, and it was what Ravis kind of wanted. There's probably also every chance he would have started kicking, so was he truly unarmed? Who knows. Regardless, I think it makes me realise why these post-Order 66 Jedi stories are so enticing to people telling Star Wars stories. It's because they can do more with that character and meaningfully push boundaries without diminishing the significance of Anakin Skywalker's troubles. And by boundaries I of course mean the Jedi Code. Continuity is a different question, one that both Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor do address, but at this point in the story all that's on Cal's mind is returning to Kobo and mooching over to Centauri Kree's observatory to find the final compass. Tanalorr is close now, and our heroes can smell it.
Hey, look at that, he ain't dead. How you doing, kid?
Cal.
Whatever you did up there sure kicked the firebug nest.
Ravis is gone.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So let me guess, back to Kobo?
Yeah, I think so.
Say, Jetpack, give me a hand up here.
Yeah.
Returning to Kobo, the objective is clear. Cal must fight his way through nature, Bedlam Raiders, Imperials, and Rick, the door technician.
Get ready to die!
This is absolutely the best boss fight in the game, and that is all simply on the way to Centauri Kree's observatory. What I don't understand is why Cal always has to slog through the thick of it when Bode can just fly in with his jetpack. Surely the Mantis can drop them both off closer. But this aspect of the story is where things come to a head for Dagan Gera. With his ally Ravis defeated, he is all that stands between Cal and the Mantis crew and Tanalorr. My apologies, there's actually Urgost Fist of Ravis to go through first. My mistake. But now Urgost Fist of Ravis has a hole in him, I think it's safe to say that my statement is now correct. On the way up to where Dagan is most likely at, we find the remains of a stormtrooper, and this Force Echo that I thought was interesting.
We caught one as he tried to escape.
Please, I surrender!
This is the army that ended the mighty Jedi Order? Kill him.
I've got to say, sometimes my thought process is the same as Dagan here. The Empire is demonstrated on many occasions to be massively incompetent. As powerful as the Emperor and Darth Vader are, there's no possible way they can be everywhere at once. So how do they even function? In a lot of Star Wars stories, the average Imperial is portrayed as a buffoon. Bode and Cal fight their way through the observatory, eventually confronting Dagan Gera. He can be found watching a recording of Centauri Kree, asking Dagan to either forsake Tanalorr or seek her out.
I guess he got the message a few years too late.
If Centauri had only stood with me, we could have convinced the Council that Tanalorr was worth the sacrifice. Now she's gone. Ravis is gone. The Order is gone, and I am free!
You're not free, Dagan. You're alone.
At this point, Dagan's obsession with Tanalorr has cost him absolutely everything. Claiming that that has freed him is only him making himself feel more powerful.
Why are you here when your true enemy is out there? How could you let the galaxy fall to this unworthy machine of an empire? You think yourself a survivor, but you are a failure!
They haven't beaten us. Not yet.
Now who is blinded by the past? Within the abyss, the Empire cannot reach us. I will forge these raiders into an elite army led by disciples trained in the Force at my temple. Then, when the time is right, I will strike out and cleanse this galaxy with fire.
We've already got an Emperor. Give us the compass.
And why would I do that?
Because I'm a father who's running out of options.
Something about this line from Bode makes it feel a bit forced. I know he is desperate to find a safe haven for his daughter, but why would Dagon, a Force user who has fallen to the dark side and could never even hope to understand that, give one modicum of a flying fuck? And Bode is incredibly perceptive, he knows that. And that raises a rather interesting question. Who is this performance for?
And you're standing in the way of a better life for my little girl. You hand it over, or I will put you down.
What small dreams you cling to. Enough! Tanalor beckons.
And now we have another duel on our hands. With Bode here to assist us this time, maybe this is the time we finally put Dagon to rest. His power is so great that he creates Force hallucinations, including manifesting his right arm that of course has now been gone for 2 centuries. Bode is put out of commission rather quickly. He isn't killed, he's just no longer in the fight, leaving Cal alone to muddle through Dagon's hallucinations, and the fight very quickly seemingly makes its way to the ceiling. It's here where Dagon appears to manage to gravely wound Cal with a slash to the chest, where Dagon's words make Cal realise that he's simply creating a Force vision to prey on his fears, and precious little of what's actually going on is real. And that is something that Cal can turn against his foe.
The shuttles are leaving. I will not return. You're lost. You've strayed from the path. And you are no Jedi.
Please, tell me this is real. What happened?
Some kind of Force hallucination. Fueled by fear. I used his against him.
It's here where Cal comes to a realization regarding Dagon and Tanalor, and perhaps even the hidden path. One that Bode's reaction to is perhaps crucial to the storytelling.
Still in one piece. BD? Maybe some good news?
Maybe Dagon was right.
You sure you're not still, you know?
Think about it. Tanalor's a fortress. We should use it for the hidden path. Gather allies, train. They'd never see us coming.
I don't know, that seems risky.
Everything is at risk so long as the Empire's around. Besides, you don't want Kata spending her whole life in hiding, do you?
If she's safe, Cal? Yeah. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I understand that. But someday, someone's gonna have to face the Empire. Why not us?
Something changes in Bode's demeanour here. Something that feels significant. It's clear that he's absolutely not keen on the idea of the hidden path joining them on Tanalor, because above all else he's laser focused on keeping his daughter safe. He claims he's going to hang back and look around for a manual for the compass or something, because that would definitely exist. But all in all, there's something really suspicious about Bode, and I'm surprised that Cal didn't at least question it. But for now, our objective is to bring the compass to Eno Cordova on Jeddah, because if anybody can fix it up, it's him. A bit of in-flight banter later, and we've arrived. At this point in the story, you can tell that it isn't over, and there's something yet to be revealed. With both Ravis and Dagon gone, there's currently no main antagonist, so everything is out of sorts, and it does feel by design. You get the impression that there's something more impactful ahead than a monster on a lost planet. But for now, all there is to do is to go with it.
Dagon Gera had the last compass, but it's
damaged.
You didn't exactly hand it over.
This can be repaired. I'll begin at once. BD.
Let's give Master Cordova some time to concentrate.
I know a place with a view.
Good.
Whilst everything may seem fine and dandy, anyone with understanding of storytelling knows that's because it's facilitating an upcoming twist. Jedi Survivor's error here, I feel, is not having a pressing threat to serve as a constant in parallel to that threat. I mean, there's the Empire, but that's what the characters are running from, or at least hiding from. But there's no prospect of a triumph against the Empire in the sense of a head-on contact, so that feels like too much of a given for it to jump to the forefront now. That being said, we do get some good character moments here.
Seer, why don't you join us on Tanalorr? There's no better home for the Archive or the Hidden Path. Look, whatever the future holds, we can face it together.
Yes. It's a new path for all of us. Cal, Master Tapal would be proud of the Jedi you've become.
I had a good teacher.
Everyone, the Hidden Path has found a new home. To Tanalorr.
To Tanalorr. Hey, wait a minute, Seer, does that mean you're coming?
Yes, Grease. In fact, I'm going to go and prepare the Archive for relocation.
Missing element or not, it's good that this is the point where Tanalorr truly becomes a combined objective of every character integral to the narrative. Seer has agreed to join the Mantis crew, and that very line of dialogue, if nothing else, feels rewarding and earned. As for Bode, something is still certainly amiss.
We did it, Bode.
Yeah. Compass is gonna be good as new.
Something's bothering you.
You know me too well, Scrapper.
I'd just like to say that that statement was delivered in such a way that I feel as if it's absolutely false. And perhaps Bode cannot be trusted.
Just thinking about Kata. And people looking after her, but it's always a bit tough when I come back.
When she sees what you've done for her, she'll understand.
I hope so. I was thinking maybe we should go to Tanalorr first. Just make sure it's safe before the others join.
The sooner we get the Hidden Path set up there, the better. Gotta stay one step ahead of the Empire, right?
Yeah.
Hey. Tomorrow we're gonna have a new home. Couldn't have done that without you, Bode.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I'm, gonna go record a bedtime story for Kata. You have a good night. You've earned it.
A betrayal is certainly imminent, and the game doesn't do an excellent job of hiding which direction it's coming from. Everything has gone too well up until this point, and ever since they defeated Dagon, Bode has been acting perhaps far too shifty. But in Cal's mind, everything has gone well. Maybe it's time he can think about his future too.
What a view, huh? Desert at night seems to stretch on forever.
And there is beauty in emptiness.
Now you sound like a Jedi.
I got a few things right.
Not everything. Look, the Order's gone. It's time to leave it behind. And I know what I want now.
Took you long enough.
The following morning, all that remains is to check on Eno Cordova's progress. He's had all night, so in theory, him and BD1 have got it sorted by now. But I guess we'll see. Sure enough, it's sorted, but before any of the characters can rejoice, something terrible happens. Commotion from outside suggests the Empire has found Cere's base. I wonder how that happened. Oh, surprise, surprise.
Bode?
I'm really sorry about this.
Oh. Son. Son, you don't have to do this.
No!
Cordova got done dirty there because now he is actually dead. As for Bode, he's revealed himself to be a traitor, and has also absconded after stealing the compass, so we must chase after him. It's clear he lured the Empire here for one reason or another, but nothing is made clear just yet. I do wish this betrayal was far less predictable than it actually was. However, whilst this awesome speeder bike scene plays in the background, I'd like to say that I do really like the idea of there being a traitor within the Mantis crew. However, that betrayal loses its sting when that character was introduced in this game and is the only new member of the crew. If they introduced a couple new members to the crew, maybe it wouldn't feel as if these new characters' relationships that have been built up over the course of the game were thrown in just to be thrown away. That's not to say any of this is bad in any way whatsoever. Above all else, it serves a purpose, and as I'm sure I'll explain, it does so incredibly well. But in this final act of the game, let's say, the story beats don't always hit the mark, but the character development that occurs as a result certainly does. Maybe that compensates for it, but I'd like to explain in more detail as we go. Despite arguing that Bode's betrayal was predictable, there are certainly burning questions that need answering. Clearly he's got some undisclosed connection to the Empire that I'm sure we'll learn about, but the main question is, why? But anyway, for now, as we chase Bode, we get to fling a stormtrooper into a TIE fighter. Hopefully he has insurance, and it doesn't take long before we destroy Bode's bike, mangle his jetpack, and then confront him properly.
Why? Why, Bode? For this! We fought for that together, and you're just gonna hand it to the Empire?
I'm not giving it to the Empire.
You killed Master Cordova.
Cal, you don't have time for this fight. Something terrible is coming for that archive. Listen to your instincts. You know I'm right.
What have you done?
If you want to keep your family safe, you get them out of there. Right now.
What have you done? You can't be.
You're not the only one who survived.
Just in case you forgot, this was indeed Star Wars Jedi Survivor, you know? Using the Force and Dagan Gera's lightsaber, Bode reveals himself to be a Force user. And if that line suggests anything, this entire time he's been a Jedi. Now this is the aspect that I didn't see coming, and I can appreciate it, but I feel as if it makes more sense for the characters than it does the actual plot, if that makes sense. Bode clearly isn't an Inquisitor, and he's definitely not Sith either. He's aligned with the Empire, however he's not going to give the compass to Tanalorr or to them, saying that he won't be doing that. And I believe him in that sense. They are the distraction whilst he gets away. Not that it really matters because Cal chased him down anyway, but this time around, Bode comes out on top. We're scripted to be defeated here, and yet the game tells us to respawn as if we've been killed. We return to a shot of Bode's ship, which just happens to be on whatever planet he's on, to suit plot, even if he travelled to that planet via the Mantis. And now we are no longer playing as Cal Kestis, but rather Cere Junda. As the Anchorites are either fighting or fleeing, we get the opportunity to play as Cere, and lay waste to as many Imperials as possible, because Cere is a little bit more powerful than Cal is, though I'd imagine that's entirely dependent on difficulty, and I was hardly playing on an especially hard setting. Unlike Cere as we knew her in Jedi Fallen Order, where she tapped into the Force and was almost consumed by darkness on a couple of occasions, here she seems calm, in control. If anything, she can channel her power positively without being consumed by it. And that's useful because with Cal out Kip in the desert somewhere courtesy of Bode throwing him off a cliff, we're going to need her strength. I didn't expect to play as Cere, but in hindsight it feels like an overarching narrative payoff, and I'll explain why when we get to it. But let's just say that it's absolutely necessary for what happens next, and as a result I do kind of like it. Or at the very least I like what it means for the character, over anything plot related that's happening. So after dropping some big balls on AT-ATs and keeping the Empire at bay for a short bit, Cere and BD-1 return to the archive where she acquires the Hidden Path contact codes, giving them to BD before telling him to go. Why is she staying behind? Because simply put, everybody knows what's behind that door. It's the Star Wars Continuity Enforcer.
It's been a while. I was hoping you drowned on Nur when we blew a hole in your underwater base.
It is delusion to think your actions have had any consequence.
I'm not sure if this line is directed at Cere in this moment, or if it just means both Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor in general. This line could very easily be a commentary for any side story in the Star Wars universe.
The fortress stands. The Inquisitorius continues its work. And I have come for you.
I've been waiting.
A one-on-one actual Darth Vader boss fight, no matter how it fits or how you look at it, is an exciting prospect. But I am conflicted with regards to Vader's presence in Jedi Survivor. Because when it comes to stories like this that have no overt bearing on the original trilogy of films, for example, Vader showing up is either a death sentence or you manage to escape, and it's gonna be one of those two things. And Cere's already escaped once. And this is Vader. He was used in Fallen Order as a continuity-enforcing plot device, and that is the same story here. Use him more than once, and as far as these stories are concerned, he's more of a bogeyman than an actual character. If the characters get too close to making an impact that would undermine the very foundations that A New Hope is founded on, and the entire prequel trilogy further expanded, that will be when you can expect a visit from the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader himself. And in attempting to reconstruct the Jedi Temple archives, that's exactly what's happened with Cere here. Although Cere has a very good go of it, the outcome is very obvious.
You have grown stronger.
No. I've only let go of my fear.
We shall see.
The positive, of course, is Cere faces the Sith Lord like an equal. She can't beat him, but the game knows that and leans into Vader's tendency to demoralize his enemies with words, and also highlight his tenacity. At the same time, this moment feels earned to Cere considering how far she's come on her own journey. She's under no illusions with how dangerous Vader is and knows it's going to take more than dropping her magnum opus on his head to kill him. But regardless, she manages to hold her own for an impressive amount of time, to the point where even Vader points out that she's grown stronger. And this justifies Vader actually showing up out of his own way in the first place. If Cere is able to last even just a minute against Vader in a one-on-one scenario, then Inquisitors would stand no chance. However, it's like I said, Vader just doesn't die, and it's unlikely that Cere is going to start running away anytime soon. Unless somebody drops a building on Vader to give Cere time to escape, from the audience's perspective, the outcome is inevitable. So I'm 50-50 on Darth Vader's implementation here. It actually has an impact this time, and Vader isn't just here to enforce continuity, but at the same time there is an aspect of that as well. Regardless, it is fitting for him to be somewhat involved here, due to him being something of a menace to the hidden path in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, but he isn't a persistent threat because he just needs to show up and then leave as quickly as he arrives. Anyway, the outcome of this fight is no doubt inevitable. Obviously, I'd fought Bode with the double-bladed lightsaber and made the mistake of not switching it to the single blade before the cutscene kicked in, because it's now just ignited on Cal's belt. But how we were even able to play as Cere is now clear. Whilst all of that was going on, Cere was already dead, and Darth Vader had already defeated her. The fire has simply too much to eat to extinguish on its own that quickly, meaning Cal used his Force Psychometry ability to experience Cere's final moments. The little lightsaber blip aside, this is perhaps one of the best shots in the entire game, and it really hits home that this is a massively devastating loss for Cal. With both Eno Cordova and especially Cere Junda dead, Cal no longer has that guidance, that safety net that he's enjoyed in Jedi Fallen Order and this game. Of course, whether or not he actually needs that is irrelevant. This scene does an amazing job of demonstrating just how soul-crushing the loss is, and this certainly sets up a more dark and intense final couple of hours. Cal isn't the only one devastated by Bode's betrayal and the deaths of Master Cordova and Cere Junda. Obviously, BD-1, who runs up to Cal and gives him a droid hug, is devastated by the loss of Eno Cordova, just as much as Cal is devastated at the loss of Cere. As for Grease, with how he walks, you can see that he's deflated and speechless. He considered Cere a very close friend, and the loss has an impact on him as well. Cal Kestis certainly couldn't have learned to wield a lightsaber with his butt cheeks under worse circumstances, as these losses have devastated the entire Mantis crew. That being said, there's certainly enough composure here for something to come next. And if the music at this point when back in the Mantis is any indication, then something has certainly changed.
You take care of that?
Yeah. They're safe.
We'll find the proper place to bury him soon.
The remaining anchorites have scattered. The Empire pursues them. They may return at any moment. Cere bought enough time for BD-1 to reach us with the contact codes for the hidden path. But this is all that remains of her archive.
You're so close to a second chance.
Right and raw deal? Tell me, how could Bode be a Jedi and be an Imperial spy?
He is no Jedi.
Why couldn't we sense him?
He deceived us all.
No, I still should have been able to.
Now that's enough! Cal. That's enough, okay? What Bode did, that is on him. It's not on you. It's not on anyone. It's on him. We all know it's a rigged game, but we choose how to play.
It's a shame that there's not a bounty on his head. We could have hunted him with a guild tracker.
Locator beacon. That's how Bode reached us on Kobo.
Could it still be active?
Well, let's find out.
Nothing.
Damn it!
Cal. The signal.
It's faint. BD, dial it in. Nova Garon system.
Wait a minute. Why would Bode take a detour?
He's got a daughter. Maybe that's where she lives.
We could catch him there. But this feels like a trap.
Yeah, it does. So what do you think? Do we risk it?
I don't see what choice we got.
For Cere and Master Cordova, I will mask our approach.
Okay. You two grab some seat. I got the con.
For Cere.
So Bode used a locator beacon at the very beginning of the game to track down Cal, and that system works both ways. However, it's painfully obvious that Bode is luring us to the Nova Garon system for whatever reason, because there is no chance that Bode isn't aware of the locator beacon. However, Bode has the compass, so regardless of what else happens, he needs to find him. A cool detail worth pointing out is at this point the menu goes red. This is our indicator that these devastating losses are going to push Cal down a darker path, although it is unclear just yet how dark that path may be. But it's a very cool detail that you'll no doubt notice sooner or later. Anyway, for now, let's head to the Nova Garen system and track down Bode. Of course, it turns out there's an Imperial base here, proving once again that Bode has some degree of Imperial alignment, so no doubt this is going to get messy. However, you could argue we passed messy many parsecs ago. As it turns out, we are on an ISB base, and that of course stands for the Imperial Security Bureau. And considering Cal's in no mood for subtlety right now, there's every chance we're going to have to fight the entire base. Simply put, Cal has absolutely no qualms brutally killing a lot of Imperials today. After fighting his way far enough through the base to make his presence known, eventually Cal makes his way to the office of the base's commander, Lank Denvik.
Cal Kestis. I'd assumed the first time we met you'd be strapped to an interrogation chair.
I've heard that before. Still weird. Get on the comms and call off the base alert.
Or what? You're a Jedi. I know what you are capable of. And what you are not.
On the comms. Now.
Compared to other interactions that Denvik may or may not have had with Jedi, Cal is very quick in ensuring Denvik knows that this confrontation is going to go vastly differently.
This is Commander Denvik. The Jedi has been neutralized. All units stand down until further notice. Satisfied?
I'm here for Bode Akuna.
How did you find this base?
A locator beacon on Bode's ship.
Uncharacteristically careless. His reports indicate you two have grown quite close since Coruscant.
You're the one who sent him to infiltrate my team.
Correct. Bode has been my weapon for some time. Quite effective. Unlike those armored abominations in the Inquisitorius.
So it's true. Seer's dead because of you.
No. The Jedi operation is still months away.
You're lying. The Empire burned the archives, led by Darth Vader.
Lord Vader. I have to stop this while I still can! Don't you see? Bode lured you here to destroy me! They're coming! Dead man,
Bode's plan is almost laid bare, and it does make sense from this angle. Bode lured the Empire to Jeddah to get away with the compass. He doesn't plan on giving it to the Empire, he simply wants Cal to destroy that base and any record of his existence too. As for Denvik, he was the one responsible initially for sending Bode to infiltrate Cal's operation and gain his trust, and has actually been reporting on Cal since the very beginning of the game. But as it turns out, Bode is a bit of a loose cannon on both fronts. It's clear that his only true loyalty is to his daughter. But for the time being, Cal just throws Denvik's clothes on, because I suppose his face isn't plastered all over Imperial space. This disguise is flawed for a couple of reasons. Cal is a notorious and wanted man. It's a big gamble to infiltrate a base full of Imperial agents in disguise and hope that nobody recognizes his face. Also, Denvik is the commander of this facility. Surely he is the only one of his rank here. So either all these Imperials are thinking Denvik grew magnificent ginger locks, or they're simply not paying attention. However, being invisible, however impractical that actually is amongst Imperials, is quite an interesting insight into how the Empire operates. Everyone is snobbish, looking down on one another. Nobody's pleasant to anyone. It's as Dagan said, the Empire is simply a machine. There is no camaraderie in the Empire. There is no bond between members of its ranks. There are simply climbers stepping on each other and soldiers, and that is it. Everybody is simply looking down on somebody, and the environment is incredibly hostile towards everyone, not just those living under the Empire, but also those serving it. Anyway, with some Jedi mind trickery, Cal makes his way to Bode's quarters. We don't find anyone just yet, but that does leave us with some time to investigate.
He was gathering intel on us the whole time.
Mama.
Easy, sweetheart. I know. It's just me and you now, Kara. Just me and you.
Bode's daughter. And her mother.
Eventually, BD-1 thinks to splice open the door to Bode's bedroom. And it's here where we find an old data disk. It contains the recording Dagan was watching on Kobo. However, before we can ponder over that too much, a door opens, and we finally get to meet Kata.
Sorry. You scared me. You must be Kata. I'm Cal. And this is BD-1.
It's nice to meet you.
Where's your dad, Kata?
He said to pack for a trip. You don't work here, do you?
You're the first person to figure that out.
Are you really a Jedi?
Yeah. I am.
Well, I have to finish packing. I can't find my Mookie doll.
So we help Kata find her Mookie doll.
Kinda looks like me.
A little.
But before we can get too much information out of the child, Bode arrives.
It was supposed to be a surprise. But you got here a little sooner than I expected. Come here, Kata.
Papa, what's going on?
This is my best friend. We had a fight, but we'll get things settled. When we go. Found Mookie.
You were a Jedi?
Yeah.
How'd you survive the Purge?
The Council assigned a few of us to intelligence during the Clone Wars. I used the skills that I learned there to disappear.
I'm not entirely sure if this was a necessary contribution to Star Wars lore, what with there now being Jedi spies, courtesy of Bode disclosing this, but it would make sense as to why, despite being a former Jedi himself, he can stand in a room with two Jedi Masters from that time period and not be identified. His espionage abilities also make it clear why Cal couldn't sense him. This is a skill that he's honed for well over a decade. It also makes sense as to how Bode could detect Cal's thoughts, especially regarding his feelings for Merrin. And on top of all of that, Bode being a Jedi explains his knowledge of the Jedi and being able to use that in his words, and his other knowledge of Cal's feelings at this point in his life, to attempt to lure him away from the Jedi path. Not because he necessarily wanted to take Cal down a darker path, but he simply wanted to use Tanalorr as a safe haven for his daughter.
Went into hiding. Didn't know who to trust. Familiar story. Right. But then I met the most incredible woman. Your mama. One day, Kata and I were out running errands, and I got this message. Don't come home.
Inquisitors.
Looking for me. My wife bought us the time to escape. I knew I couldn't run forever, and so I cut a deal. Then Vik keeps us hidden, as long as Papa stays useful.
You were lying to us from the very start.
Tanalorr was a way out for both of our families. You were gonna give it to the hidden path. A bunch of strangers.
And you were gonna sacrifice thousands of people to save yourself. We're monster boat.
I'm a father. The first time I held her, I saw the entire galaxy in her eyes. You can't understand.
I understand betrayal. And that you lured me here to take down this base. Right?
Well, fighting the Empire is what you do best.
And with that, Bode Force pushes a table at Cal and absconds. Angered at Bode's betrayal, Cal chases him down. Fighting even more Imperials than before, Cal taps into something different. The dark side. This is basically a combination of perks that in gameplay makes Cal incredibly powerful for a burst of time. But if the red hue and the blurry corners are any indication, this power is fueled by Cal's rage. It's cool that the dark side is implemented into the gameplay like this because we can see as the player just how addictive using abilities like that may be, because it makes life significantly easier. However, it forces us to use the single blade stance whenever we tap into it, indicating that we're not in complete control, and that when Cal is using these abilities, neither is he. However, it does make taking on even the toughest of foes a bit of a doddle. It doesn't take Cal long to reach the hangar, sadly though, Bode has escaped. However, we regroup with Merrin and take on a ridiculous number of menacing sentry droids. Thanks to our new special ability, however, that's not so tough.
Where's Bode?
They're gone. He took his daughter and the compass. They used me as a distraction.
Damn you!
Denvik arrives with another uniform on. I think it would have been really funny if he showed up in his pants because we took his clothes. But alas, it's Star Wars.
Go on, Jedi. Do it! Do it! Rather you than Lord Vader!
Who is this?
He sent Bode after our team. My crew. Cordova.
Fear!
They're all dead because of him!
Cal! This is what Bode wants. I know you are in pain, but this is not you! The Empire has taken enough from us! I will not lose you too!
He won't.
Cal isn't so far gone that he's completely blinded, and that's demonstrated here. He feels the rage and the power within it, but thanks to Merrin, he realises what's going on before he goes too far. As for Denvik, he leaves him. No doubt Darth Vader will want his pound of flesh. Regardless, I like the fact that the final act of this game enforces this internal struggle for Cal. His battle with the dark side is no doubt going to be interesting, and it's only just beginning here.
What was that? Was it...
I don't know what that was.
If you feel it again, you will tell me.
I will.
Good.
As for Tanalorr, Bode has escaped with the compass. Up until 5 minutes ago, that would absolutely be a defeat. But thanks to the data disk discovered in Bode's quarters, we discover there is another means to reach Tanalorr.
We lost, haven't we?
One compass remains. If you are hearing this, you know where I've left it. But if the compass is gone, do not despair.
What's this?
This isn't just the last goodbye.
There is another way to reach Tanalorr. Activate the arrays and align them to the coordinates embedded in this message.
There's a control center here. If we align the arrays, we can create a flight path through the abyss.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You want me to fly the Mantis through a ship-eating nebula using a tiny tunnel carved out by 200-year-old tech?
Yes.
All right, I'm in.
So there is a sliver of hope there, but it requires us to return to Kobo for an aspect of filler. I think it's fair to say, though we are close to the ending, the pacing feels as if it's broken down a bit. Besides that, there isn't really an awful lot to say about this final Kobo mission, so let's muddle through it quickly. Cal makes his way swiftly to the control center, where there are Imperials waiting for him. This fight just doesn't seem to end for a fair bit. Whilst I understand the need for a challenging few rounds of enemies, I think it just breaks down the flow of the story being told, because who gives a fuck? But eventually we manage to get past that and make our way to the control center, where Cal uses the Force to rip it open. Once inside, the control center raises itself well above ground and configures the arrays to point at the coordinates embedded in Santari's data disk. But somebody will need to stay behind and activate the path. Well, that'd do it. The elevator ride down was significantly longer than the ride up, so after 84 years we finally arrive at the bottom. All that remains now is to head back to the Mantis and make haste for Tanalorr.
Cal, is it time?
We're heading to the abyss now. Fire up the arrays.
I'll be monitoring your progress from here. May the Force be with you all.
And you, Z.
Well, what do you think is taking Z so long?
Dagan Gera was the only person to live through what we're about to do.
At least we will die together.
Hey, great pep talk, kids. Hopefully they can fit that on my tombstone.
With the arrays having carved out a path, all that remains for the Mantis is to fly through the abyss, which is still quite treacherous. However, the arrays overload, so this path is getting increasingly narrower. So Cal has the idea of jumping through hyperspace blind.
Do you trust me?
You know I do, Cal. Let her ride.
Using the Force, Cal waits for the right moment, before hearing Seer's voice saying,
Now.
10 out of 10. Very Star Wars. After God knows how long, finally we've arrived at Tanalorr. I'm finding it really hard to pronounce Tanalorr. It just doesn't roll off the tongue that easy. Anyway,
wow.
Upon landing, the first thing I noticed is this place is truly gorgeous. And as you make your way through the small world space that we get to explore, you can see that it is an untouched paradise. It's completely uncorrupted by the Empire, or anyone for that matter. There aren't even any aggro animals. And on top of all that, the views are truly spectacular. This planet is the something special that Cal was seeking. However, sadly, Bode is here, and in order to secure it, Cal will have to go through him. Merrin mentions that he will not go peacefully. He will fight because he's cornered. But Cal wishes to give him a chance to stand down, for Carter's sake. As much hatred as Cal feels towards Bode, making Carter an orphan will be something that he will have to live with for the rest of his life. And if nothing else, he can't rob Carter of that chance. But we all know how that's gonna go. Oh, a bit of High Republic lore. Don't mind if I do. Eventually, we make our way to this temple place. It's in here where Cal and Merrin find Carter singing a song.
CD1.
Hey, Carter. This is Merrin. She's a friend.
I'm sorry Papa hurt you. You said I'd never see you again. What are you doing here?
Kata, your father stole something very important. We're gonna ask him to give it back.
Will you show us the way?
Okay. Follow me. I don't like it here. It's dark and lonely.
You don't have to be afraid. Better?
You're very pretty.
Eventually, we arrive at a chamber where Bode is found.
Kata! How did you get here?
It wasn't easy.
You shouldn't have followed us.
Papa, don't!
Stay back, Kata. This is the only way to keep you safe.
She will be safe. I promise, Bode. But listen to me. It's over.
Lay down your weapons.
This planet will be a haven for those hunted by the Empire, including Kata and you. But you have to surrender now.
Go outside, Kata.
Listen to them, please.
I will decide what's best for my family.
Attempting to reason with Bode predictably didn't go to plan. He killed Master Cordova, his actions led to the death of Seer Junda, and the destruction of Seer's base on Jeddah. There's no world in which Cal and Bode would ever be able to coexist. However, even if he couldn't think of a way to do it, he was willing to offer Bode that clemency almost for the sake of Bode's daughter. But of course he hasn't taken it, and now we have another fight on our hands. And in this sequence, Bode reveals his true colours. He's no longer a friendly, talkative guy. He's angry and aggressive, and that is his character. Everything else was manipulation, a smokescreen to mask who he truly was. I do like Bode Akuna as a character up until his betrayal, but as an antagonist, I'm not the most fond of him. I understand his intentions, his motivations, and his reasons for doing things, and he suits complementing Cal's internal struggle with the dark side that he kicked off. But as the game's main antagonist, the final villain for Cal to face, he really doesn't have an awful lot of gravitas going for him. The story beats following Bode's betrayal function for the purpose of characters, but I wouldn't necessarily go calling it a satisfying final act, if that makes sense. I think the pacing doesn't do it many favours, but besides that, I can't actually quite pinpoint why I feel the way I do. I just do feel like there's an element missing. I don't think it's so much Bode being a traitor that gets me, but more the fact he was the only new ally to join the Mantis crew, therefore being the only new ally that we spend a substantial amount of time with. And if anybody was going to betray the tight-knit circle, it was always going to be the new guy. So Bode betraying Cal was arguably predictable. In both a good and bad way though, it leaves a void in its way. It's almost like there's a missing character altogether to make the betrayal A, less predictable, and also actually more interesting. There are plenty of characters in Jedi Survivor that weren't in Jedi Fallen Order, but most of them weren't around long enough for us to develop any genuine concern for their well-being. In that respect, Bode and Eno Cordova were the only ones, and Bode kills Cordova, so now we have to kill him I suppose I'm just disappointed there's not a meaningful new friendship in this game really that's going to carry over, or at least one that gets properly developed. When the only one that is developed is the one that happens to be under false pretenses, you could argue that that reveal would have a greater impact, and in theory you would be right. But in practice, it's just an awful lot easier to see coming. And when a final act is more predictable, it certainly becomes a little bit muddier on the front of pacing, but it doesn't necessarily make it bad. Anyway, in the fight, Bode manages to overpower Cal and then starts pummeling him aggressively on the ground until he more or less blacks out. And it's at this point where the game gives us an interesting message. Embrace the darkness. And then prompts us to press these buttons. And now Cal uses the dark side to more or less hold Bode in the air, before releasing him and resuming the fight. I like that the game makes it feel as if an active player decision to embrace the dark side for this fight. I'm not sure if anything happens if you don't do it, besides from dying, but it would be interesting if there were two variations on what happens next based on a choice made there. But I think the fitting choice at the moment is for Cal to indeed embrace a bit of darkness and do this man in. After all, it allows us to gain the upper hand.
Put this on your daughter.
Bode, we know what it's like to grow up alone.
Please, listen to them, Papa!
All right. And when the Empire comes, will you be able to protect my little girl? I'm sorry, Carter. I tried.
No, Papa!
Stay back!
After wounding him with the one shot, Cal mercilessly shoots him again. He didn't know when he was beaten. He was too dangerous to keep alive. And on top of that, now that Cal's tasted enough of the darkness, maybe it was payback for Cere and Cordova. Sadly, that leaves Carter an orphan. But I guess she's a part of the Mantis crew now. She, like Cal and Merrin, lost her family at a young age. So in theory, this is the best place for her. Also, her dad was a Jedi, so in theory, she may be Force sensitive too, and Cal might just get a Padawan. As for Cal, he stays behind to prepare Bode's body for a funeral, igniting Dagan Gera's lightsaber that Bode stole. I like the sinister effect it has in Cal's eyes. I certainly feel as if it's a deliberate attempt to make us think, not necessarily that Cal will fall to the dark side, but rather his struggle with it is only just beginning. And then all that remains for Cal, Merrin, Carter and Grease to do is cremate the remains of Bode Akuna, Eno Cordova and Cere Junda. A touching, aesthetically pleasing moment in which we can reflect on the theme of loss. With Master Cordova and Cere Junda gone, and in a way, Bode dead, as far as Cal can tell, there aren't any other Jedi left but him. But he's no longer confident in his status as a Jedi. In his search for Tanalorr, he almost lost himself. He almost fell to the dark side, like Dagan Gera. And as he stands here looking into the fire as it consumes the remains of Cere, in complete silence until the sun is risen and the fires are out.
You saved my life on Brock. You let me walk my own path when I needed to. You taught me what it truly means to be a Jedi. Now you're gone. We will continue your legacy, Seer. We will build something that can outlast the Empire. I promise you that. I promise. But I'm scared. I almost lost myself. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for what comes next.
Guide her through the darkness.
And that is how Star Wars Jedi Survivor ends. I suppose Seer is always with Cal, and this represents that. Almost like a Force ghost, but maybe not as potent. And by that, not to the degree of Obi-Wan Kenobi's Force ghost knocking around on a tree stump or something. And I like the ending, and I like what this game does for its characters, and I like what it means in that respect. Because whatever comes next, Cal is going to have to navigate the darkness for himself, and also guide Carter through it. The post-credits scene shows the characters embracing Tanalorr as their new home. However, they've got a long way to go before it even looks like one. The place needs infrastructure, the hidden path needs to set up, and they need to find the scattered anchorites. And all of that begins with Cal Kestis, Merrin, Grease, BD-1, and Carter. The ending certainly makes me look forward to what comes next in what I believe is intended to be a trilogy. And whilst the story beats didn't always necessarily hit the mark, the character beats almost certainly did. And so I came away from this experience with Star Wars Jedi Survivor feeling as if not only was it a fantastic game, but also, despite the obvious rough bits, a great Star Wars story. And that brings us to the end of today's bloody long video, Christ. If you made it this far, to the end of the video, I want to thank you massively for sticking with my nonsensical ramblings for the best part of 3 hours. Whether you did it in one sitting or several, I do massively appreciate the support that you've shown me in at least hearing me out, even if you don't agree with my points, or you think the video was a complete waste of your time. It is massively appreciated. I was going to do a bit of a conclusion, but I feel as if you've watched 3 hours of video here, and I think I've touched down on the key points when I needed to, and that's all that was needed. So I will say that Star Wars Jedi Survivor is an absolutely tremendous experience, one that I massively enjoyed in every single way. There were some points that were rough, they didn't necessarily do so great within themselves, but when applied to a broader sense, for example the characters, it did sort of fit just fine, and that was, that was all it needs to be. But thank you all for watching. I really hope that you've enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like. If you're new, maybe hit subscribe if you want to. Share the channel with your friends, all that wonderful stuff. That would be massively appreciated. If you want to check out my history channel Decades, you can do so via a link in the description. Whether or not you do that is completely up to you. I understand it's not everybody's thing. This is a gaming channel, that's a history channel, but I plug my shit on my shit, I suppose. And if you've sat through the best part of 3 hours of Star Wars video, then the least I can do is plug a little bit of history content. Anyway, hopefully with any luck I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point, but until next time, please take care and goodbye.